Hi, my name is Alaina. I'm 24 years old and I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. As a child, I grew up in a Christian home on a small farm with little red barns, cornfields, and chickens. I was very sheltered growing up and I was uninfluenced by the pattern of the world. I spent most of my childhood exploring the outdoors and crafting up games to play with the neighbor kids. I was a product of my mother's education up until my parents made the decision to enroll my little brother and I into public school. As a seventh grader with a homeschooling background, I struggled to find my place in the mix. I was overwhelmed with new ideas, new people, new experiences. But throughout this adjustment, I was attending church service with my parents every Sunday, and I was involved in many additional Bible groups. By the end of the eighth grade, I made a profession of my faith in front of their local church because my parents prompted me to. But at this time, my heart was kind of hardened, and I had blinders on that were covering up the love and intimacy that could come from a relationship with Jesus Christ. Throughout high school, I never really lost my faith. However, I would turn it on and off like a light switch when needed. I lived out the whole fake it till you make it lifestyle. I was only I was hardly opening up the word and only attended church service to please my parents. I soon fell into many different choice sins, gratifying the pleasures of my flesh. I followed my so called friends around, ignorantly corrupting myself to the ways of the world. At the time, I didn't realize the weight of the burden that I was building as a result of the sin. I carried all kinds of shame and anxiety around living a double standard life. And due to my attitude towards my parents in church, I didn't have anyone to turn to confess the pain resulting from the sin I was committing. So I would just bury it within myself. This pattern of choice sin continued throughout college, but there was one subtle change. I began to bring the pain and brokenness to Jesus. In senior year of college, soon after I moved out of my parents' home, I found myself very alone, and that's when Jesus met me at the well. When I think of how Jesus has touched my life, I think I most similarly relate to the Samaritan woman at the well. Jesus went out of his way to speak to a sinful, socially outcasted Samaritan woman. And he told her that everyone who drinks this well water will thirst again, but anyone who drinks the water I provide for them will never thirst again. It will become in them a living water, a spring of water, living up into eternal life. I wish I could say that after Jesus met me at the well, I instantly turned from my sin and lived a life of holiness, but that's not my story. I continued to struggle with the desire of the sins I once indulged in, but I found hope and restoration from the guilt and shame in the gospel. I found a friend that sticks closer than a brother in Jesus, and he's guided me to Story Church. I've gotten involved in a small group and have begun to invest in relationships that push me towards holiness. I've begun to bring my struggles into the light of other Christians and have found freedom in that. I will forever be grateful to the story of the Samaritan woman, for it has called me out of my earthly gratifications and into a life with Jesus.